Welcome to the Rise to Thrive podcast with Matt
and Brooke,
where we embrace what it means to be human and explore how to become the most expansive versions of ourselves through vitality, connection, and play.
Expect honest conversations, transformative stories, and playful shenanigans as we unpack what it means to claim a life of your own creation.
Ready? Let's rise. All right, welcome back, y'all, to the Rise to Thrive podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Brooke.
And today we've got another amazing guest, a friend of ours that we met on our journeys, Natalie Bowker. Welcome to the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Right on.
It's nice to see you guys.
Thank you for letting us reorient your office. And
I kind of like it like this.
Yeah, we
This
should
is
just keep it
good.
this way.
Yeah, I know.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Yeah.
This is the first time that somebody's allowed us to completely take over the space and rearrange the furniture like we live here. So thank you for that.
You're
Podcast
welcome.
to you. It's a new thing. It's our mobile podcast. Everything is mobile.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are so crafty that way.
Yeah, well, we got to meet Natalie at a very special place in Joshua Tree, and we were fully immersed in a deep healing retreat. And the moment that we met, it was just like pure chemistry. And you're
Totally.
like, I live in Bend. And we're like, what?
Love Bend.
Come visit me.
I was like, perfect. More friends in places that we love the most.
Right.
And we just got deep into good conversations. I mean, me and Matt were chefing it up. Natalie was participating.
I got to eat the yummy food.
Mm.
Oh my
That's
God, I
right.
still dream about it. So good. You're making my mouth water. I'm hungry now.
Oh, no.
No, it's all good. I can wait.
The brass
No
tacks to the
eating. Definitely. But we got our tea. So cheers.
Oh, yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
ASMR
Yay, stay
is
golden.
encouraged.
Yeah.
I like your ASMR little.
It's
good.
Yeah,
I
we
gotta
didn't
wink.
have it on the last one, but we gotta make that a thing. So yeah, I mean, we can go on and on. We met, and she gave me little entry points into her life that I was just like, ooh, tell me a little bit more. And one of them being an NDE experience, which I've been so infatuated by NDEs and listening to tons of podcasts and reading a whole book. And so, it's rare to meet someone that's really experienced it themselves. Like I had one literally in my own dream, but I've never experienced it in real life. And I think that's
Have you told the story about your dream?
well, it's not that exciting. I think because I've been so infatuated with the NDEs, but I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to have one, but I don't really want to have one.
You normally don't die in dreams.
Yes,
That's
she
kind of
did.
interesting.
Which is interesting,
It
right?
was interesting.
Did you view yourself dead?
Well, it was me being catapulted through the kind of tunnel that gets I don't remember details, but I knew in my head that I was going through an NDE or I was dying.
After you had died,
And-
like the bardos or some sort of layers.
but it
of...
felt I felt the bliss. I know, I hear about that so many people are don't want to come back because it's just pure bliss. And so,
Do you?
Yeah.
I'm this is me being the therapist, right? But do you feel that from that dream experience, if you look back at the time of your life, you were going through a transformation and a birth?
I mean, I feel like I've been in that for a while. So maybe.
Yeah. I mean, those
Yeah.
things can show up in our dreams, right? They
Yeah.
can tell us where we're dying and when we're birthing, which is what I love about this kind of work.
Yeah, which we should.
Yeah.
You should tell us about the work that you do,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
and just give us a whole a background of who you are
Who am I?
as Natalie or whatever.
This is Consuela Banana
Yeah,
Hammock.
that one.
Okay. Yeah. So I hail from Minnesota originally. My accent will probably pop up here and there because I was just there. But yeah, I would say that I knew I was a therapist when I always sought out my school therapists or school counselors as friends.
Yep.
I wanted deep conversations from the womb and never really found that part of myself being satiated.
Mhm.
So I'd seek it out, including professors, and asking them, when do I finally get this emotional intelligence and intellect that I was searching for?
Mm.
And so for me, when I was in undergrad, I was studying communications and got deeply involved in contemplative religion and was meditating a bunch, did some deep, long studies of Zen Buddhism at the time where I was meditating several hours a day, and loved the crossover between kind of psychology and contemplative religions. So when I was a senior in college, I was diagnosed with a chronic illness and couldn't really function or graduate. I graduated by the hair on my teeth. Is that the skin on my teeth?
Skin on my
Skin on my teeth?
If there were hair on my teeth.
Hair on my teeth.
Hair on my chest. I don't have hair on my chest. But yeah, and so I had been to a place called Naropa University and saw the Dalai Lama, Parker Palmer, Bell Hooks, all these amazing people speak. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go back there. And since I had no real idea about what I could do with this new, broken body, if you would, and I didn't know how to heal it, I knew that meditation was helping my body. So I took a year and kind of called it my year of being a monk. And I created my own program at Naropa, and I studied religion and meditation. And so that was kind of like a 5th year of school. And from that time, I got a big drop in that Buddhism wasn't my direction. And part of what came was I was taking this class. It was an engaged Buddhism class. And there was a man in the class who showed up, and he was just taking this one class. And I was sitting there and I was like, this dude's really weird and awkward. Like, what's happening with this dude? Like, I could just pick up on something off. And we were going around and we would have to create a senior project. And he says, well, I'm taking this class because I'm dying. And I was like, wow, that was unexpected. And I was the one to lean in. So I was like, I want to know what you're going through. And I said, yes, how can I help you? So his name was Phil. I took Phil to his doctor's appointments. I took him to coffee dates, took him, and we sang, songs together and hootenannies, all the things. And our class became his hospice. And that was prior to hospice being formalized. So I was like, what is this? But it also wasn't a career. And so then an intervention came to me that I was supposed to go to Sitka, Alaska, because that's what you do when you're in Boulder. You go to, I don't know what happened, but I ended up being a youth minister in Sitka, Alaska. And during that time, 9/11 happened. And the priest that hired me retired, and he was much more of a contemplative kind of. His name was Father Gorgeous.
No way.
Yeah, he was gorgeous. He was like
That was a
5.
nickname, though, right?
No, that was his last name.
His last name was Gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
Well, it was Gorges, but we called him Father Gorgeous.
Father Gorgeous.
So he retired, and he was a good priest.
Mhm.
A very conservative priest came in and blamed all the Muslims flat out for what caused 9/11. Yeah. So I just was in deep conflict and left. And I was also in conflict with a lot of the values of the church. And I felt really spiritually lost because I was like, okay, got this drop. You had me come. Here I am. What the fuck? Can I swear?
Yeah.
You can swear.
Okay.
Sorry, I laughed really loud into the mic.
And so simultaneously, I started working with the Alaska Native population. And kids from all over the state came and worked or lived at this boarding school. And so we had 9 different dialects, 9 different communities. Yeah. And in that time, there was a student I was very close to, had an accident on campus, and he died. And I was the last person to talk to him and wish him well. It was this, he was in a liminal transitional space. And that was really, again, a place I leaned into. And then what happened was the grieving process was a whole different experience as a white woman from the Midwest I had never experienced. These kiddos instantly knew how to hold space for each other. They made concentric circles, and the closest people to this student were in the center, and the rest created these rings. So it pulled out, and then the rest were holding space. And they just did it.
This was in the moment that he passed?
This was when they found out.
When they found out.
And for days after,
Wow.
whoever needed it,
Oh.
whoever
had the center space,
Mhm.
and they were able to listen to their expression and just witness and be
let
there.
them wail, let them feel. And then you could feel that there was all this other unresolved loss and grief that was in the room too. So it was because accidents happen there all the time, and
Right.
alcoholism. And so it's just
it
You
triggers
bring it. Yeah.
the wave of grief and things that are unresolved start
Yes.
to come through, right?
And here's your process.
Right.
They had a process, and I'm on the outside, and I'm like, I don't know if it's okay for me to cry. I don't know. I do that
What's
in
my
private.
place?
Where's my place?
Yeah.
So I realized I didn't know how to help someone from a different culture, from a different experience than mine. And so that led me to go back to school to get my
I'm curious
master's.
how, just for reference,
Yeah.
how old are you at that point?
Yeah, I was like 24 to 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 27. Because so then I came back kind of in a roundabout way back to Minnesota to do my master's of marriage and family therapy. Because I thought, I need ethics. I need, to do this in a way that feels informed, trauma informed. I didn't have that language then, but that was
Right.
really what was driving it. And so I did that with the focus of grief and loss. And sorry, this is a very long answer to who am I?
No, this is a great backstory.
No.
You didn't know a lot of this, I bet.
I'm curious, was that your first major experience, like that close to grief and loss?
No.
No. Okay. So you already had experience.
I did, and always curious about grief and death.
Mhm.
Always I have very vivid memories of my grandfather and grandmother on my dad's side, who are Irish and German, and how they grieved was very different. And so I was fascinated by the Irish culture and the mourning process and how they celebrated the life
Mhm.
and open casket, like all of the things was just fascinating to me because there was ritual, and I love ritual.
Yeah.
But no, I've lost a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends that were just like, that lived short, brilliant lives and for whatever reason died. So I did my master's of marriage and family therapy, focused on grief and loss, and went into grief and loss. Worked at schools where I would go into different public schools and pull out kids who had lost a loved one and lead groups, and did that. And that was really powerful work. And I believe in that, because those kids, it goes with them, especially if it's like a parent, or a sibling, it's with them throughout their whole life. And the program was designed that way. So if they lost a parent in kindergarten, I could work with them until they graduated and know them and see them. And so that was just a great setup. And then this ministry piece kind of kept itching in the back of my head as I've been a therapist in lots of different settings, college settings and medical settings. There's just always been a piece that's been a little stale or a little clinical to who I am. I love meeting people where they're at, but structure and ethics are super important, and I have that training. But I think nowadays with our society, we need to make mental health so much more accessible. And so I've now had kind of an epiphany out in the woods with my dear friend, telling her the story of Phil. And I was like, Phil's telling me to go back to Naropa. So I returned in the fall, and I started a Master's of Divinity, which is an interfaith, mostly Buddhist contemplative program. And that's the direction I'm leaning. I'm in the process of that now.
Wow.
So that's amazing. Yes, congratulations on being guided in that way and showing up in the in the grief and the loss, because it's like we've all gone through it, and it's been really powerful to be part of grief ceremonies and be connected with people that know how to hold that space and that container, and having the tools and the resources are like so key to being able to move through that with more ease and grace and joy and connection, and almost in a way the full spectrum, and almost in a way feeling even closer sometimes to the loss. Like it's the one, I went through loss with my dear sister of mine who passed away and took her own life, and it was
How old
quite
were you?
She was, well, it was 2023, so
How old were
3
you?
years ago. I was 27, and she passed
so
away at 27. Yeah, we were like best friends from
Wow.
middle school. And it was just, it catalyzed such a beautiful journey, though, for me, and getting closer and more intimate with grief, because only a couple years before that, I was in a grief kind of workshop and had to do this like writing assignment about a letter to grief or something. And I was like, I can't conjure up much. I was like, wow, like I can't
But now you
you
could.
know, and then I was like, dang. And then just more grief opportunities, like workshops and ceremonies started popping up in my world. I'm like, dude, this is such important work. Like, so
Every
important.
human experiences it.
Yeah. And it's so many don't know what to do with it. And we just tuck it away and slide it under the rug to be dealt with at another time. So thank you
Yeah.
for doing
Thank
that
you.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it pops up in other places. And that's the thing that, leads to addiction, leads to all kinds of dysfunction. So I am passionate about it. But yeah, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I was going to ask on this like divinity path, how that's going to be connected in the mental health field. Like, what do you envision?
Yeah. I've met some really cool people that have done some interesting things with divinity. Like a lot of people that think of divinity may attribute it to chaplaincy, like a hospital, a chaplain, or a prison chaplain, or a military. And they would visit you if you were sick or dying or whatever, might come from that, or birth. That's not my path. I'm sure of that. I do want to work with the dying eventually. But I think hospitals come with a lot that is overstimulating to me, to my nervous system.
Feel that.
Yeah. And so I've learned that. Like I need to be more out in nature to support people, to support myself. And so I think it will be much more, there's lots of great like places that are popping up that are assisting people in death and loss. And I see myself doing that work in the long term. The ministry can be a lot of things. Like one of my mentors is a yoga instructor from Harvard Divinity, and she brings in yoga teacher training, or like the trainings of yoga, into how to talk spiritually with people that are at a crossroads. And like, so there's so many ways. So I think like my counseling background is going to weave into this. And I also am a yoga teacher, and I love the intersection of the body and I think that in itself and just being present is going to be the big takeaway. I hope, whatever it is that I end up doing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the greatest gift.
Presence.
Yep. The greatest present is presence.
Yay. Make that a t-shirt. It probably is. We should wear it.
Next step.
Yeah. Trademark.
I mean, yeah, like I always felt like depression is really just disconnection.
Yeah.
And it's like how having that spiritual practice or spiritual connection, just believing in something greater, whether you call it God, source, great creator, it's like that is the antidepressant. It's like knowing that we live on, and that's what the NDEs get me excited about, because I'm like, what? The afterlife sounds pretty freaking sweet. So, I mean, I would love to drop into that the story of your NDE and give us a little insight into what you experienced.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I mentioned that I have Crohn's disease, though it's in remission. But when I was pregnant with my daughter, I have 2 daughters, with my oldest daughter, I was volunteering as a mental health provider at a camp for kids that have Crohn's and colitis. And I was on a medication that suppressed my immune system. And this was a wilderness camp. We were out in northern Minnesota. And so there was, tall grass, and they had mentioned, spray yourself with DEET. And I didn't want to do that because I was pregnant.
Smart.
Yeah. So, well, maybe, I don't know. We'll see how the story unfolds.
Right. It's like the double-edged sword, right?
Well, you knew about DEET being super toxic.
Yeah. And I was watching all these kids do that have these compromised immune systems. But I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. But I was... Unfortunately, I walked away from the camp the next day to discover that I had a deer tick on me. And I knew it was a deer tick because I've been a wilderness guide and all this stuff. So I pulled it off. And then a couple days later, I started to feel pretty sick. And I went to an urgent care, and they told me it's not Lyme disease, which is very common in the Midwest. Didn't have the classic bullseye. They sent me away. As the days went on, my symptoms became progressively worse, and I had a fever. I could barely walk. I became so fatigued. And so at this point, I was about 16 to 7 weeks pregnant and had gone to the urgent care and the ER probably about 4 to 5 times in total, plus my doctor, and no one could figure out what was going on. So they ran all these tests. They wouldn't admit me into the hospital because they just thought they didn't know what to do with me. So the final, I guess, place of breaking point for the doctors was my immune system was crashing, my white blood cells were crashing, my platelets were crashing. And so it literally became an episode of like House, if you remember that show, where all of these experts were dialing in and calling and coming and introducing themselves to me and saying, we think it's the Crohn's, we think it's your pancreas or whatever. You know, like there were like all these theories, but no one really knew. And so I was going to have like an experimental surgery, which would have killed Eloise. I was going to have all these different scenarios that would have aborted the baby or I would have died. And if it weren't for being pregnant and having an OB, I would have died because of those reasons. And also my OB was the one, she wasn't even on duty. Bless her heart, wherever you are, Dr. Furaseth. She was on her way to some Celtic thing, like bazaar in Wisconsin. And she was like, oh, the deer tick. We haven't ruled out other infections. Her husband turned around. She came straight to the hospital. And at this point, I was in critical condition. And at this point, this is when I think I became in an altered state because I don't remember a lot of what happened on Earth to me. I remember a friend coming and praying over me. I had asked her to. I remember my parents crying. I remember vague bits, but I don't know how long that went, but there was a period of time where I was out of my body. And so the struggle was once they realized that it was a deer tick infection, just not common to the Midwest, they didn't know how to treat it because I was pregnant. There was and had Crohn's. So they didn't have any research of what would cure the auriculosis. So it took a disease expert, what do you call those, infectious disease specialist that came in and was like, well, there's one person that had documented that this drug might work, but it might make your pee orange.
All right, that's not the worst.
Yeah. So we tried it, and lo and behold, it worked quickly. But the piece that I very, very vividly remember that I don't always share was my rebirthing experience, my coming back to Earth. And that is when the medication started to work. I was laying in the bed and it was early morning, and I started to feel my body come back into my body. And I looked over, I was listening to my favorite song, Into the Mystic, and my skin was cracked open, and golden light was coming out of my arms, my body, and golden tears were falling down my face. And I shed something, but I didn't know like what was really happening. So that happened. And then I started to feel better, and it took a while. And I became very aware of being pregnant at that time. I hadn't felt Eloise. And then all of a sudden, because I survived, all of these doctors came and were treating her and treating me. And then we became part of science. We're a medical,
anomaly here.
Yeah, and like they wrote an article about us.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've saved lives.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we got credit for it, which is kind of cool. A claim to fame. But one thing that's interesting that I think people don't talk about, and maybe you've read some of this, is that transformation isn't a straight up experience, right? So my near-death experience happened. No one around me understood. I went home and I got depressed because I cracked open with no support in terms of what internally occurred. And so I remember my mom being like, "What, are you fucking depressed?" I was like, I can barely walk to the bathroom. I don't know what just happened to me. I'm coming back into my body. Yeah. But again, like I talked to I had all these therapist friends. I have all of these supports. No one talked about it being a near-death experience.
Wow.
And no one talked about it being traumatic.
Wow.
That
That's
is-
even more surprising.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah, that was something that the book I read definitely talked about. A lot of the people that shared their stories was how afterwards that they were suffering and that they didn't have the support system. And I think just nowadays it's becoming more and more talked about, and less woo-woo stuff. So thanks to people like you sharing your story and, but I wanted to ask, do you think, so this is something that I've heard too, if you were like in a critical condition, and you had that near-death experience, that like touch point with God, source, wherever you were, like reinvigorated you to have more healing abilities.
I love that question. So I didn't say this part, but like I knew when I started to crack open or whatnot, I recognized that I had been in like a bardo or in a
What is
purgatory.
that for people who don't know what that is?
Well, I will botch it, but there's like stages in the Tibetan Book of the Dead that are called bardos that you go through. So I think I was in some sort of level of a bardo, meaning suffering. Like I was in some sort of suffering, not awake, like I think I had some consciousness, but that experience did bring in a lot more consciousness. But it takes time, right? Because your whole system is recalibrating or rewiring after that. And that's what I think the depression is. It's like you're
coming back to like a three-dimensional space. If you were somewhere else that was
Yeah.
maybe a different frequency, so you have to come back and like reintegrate that into a lower density. It's maybe what was happening.
I love that. That's a great description.
If that feels resonant.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I think I didn't know that. So it's been like this journey to like write about it and figure it out. But I think because I experienced, I called it at the time purgatory, because that was like the Catholic language
Right.
I kind of was familiar with.
Yeah,
Like, I
which
wasn't-
doesn't sound like super.
Or maybe it's not Catholic.
No.
Oh, purgatory doesn't
Purgatory.
sound like it represents that.
Yeah.
It sounds so dark and like.
Well, where I was
Yeah.
purgatory. I was like in
Gotcha.
this like in that space I was in before I came back.
Yeah.
Was misery.
Okay, got it.
The way I describe it was a vintage circus scene. Like everyone's depressed, but they're like creepy
Yeah.
and not accepted by society. That's what that.
Did you meet like, did you see it like you were seeing other beings?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Whoa. I've never been asked that question before. Yes, I did. Yes. And I knew I wasn't supposed to stay.
So that was very clear from the moment you got there. You weren't going to be staying there.
I felt comfortable there. In fact, this is very macabre of me, but I made my daughter's bedroom vintage circus.
No way.
I got like way into it. I got all of these like rainbows from vintage paper, and I just was like
Do they know the
fascinated by
story?
that.
Do they know
Oh
the
yeah,
story?
yeah. I've like written it all out and told her about it.
And it was Eloise?
But I don't know if she gets that part of the vintage.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
from-
Like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I don't know if she's made that connection. I mean,
Maybe
maybe the
later.
notebook I made was of the vintage circus stuff. But I think and you know what? I have my dad's father, my grandfather, said he had a near-death experience, and he talked about purgatory, that he was there. And I think that was in my mind on some level, some reference. But yeah, there were people there. It was very dark. Yeah. And then there's a part I don't really remember, but the cracking open, I have recently connected with the Japanese ceramic experience. It's called
Wabi-sabi?
Or,
Well, that's like wabi-sabi is within.
yeah, there's another word.
Yeah, it's a
That's where
K. It's like
you-
kintsu
Yeah.
something.
Where you like
Uh-huh.
We'll put it in the editing
pot
notes. Yeah, you
and
crack the
then
pots and
fill it in
with
with gold.
Yep. Natalie, my friend that passed on, she was all about that.
Big and
Whoa.
Yeah.
I've got goosebumps.
So anyway, I always think about that. That anytime our like hearts are cracking, it's like filling them with gold. It's like we're expanding to hold even more
You're beautiful.
goodness.
Hmm.
It's the poet in me, really. But
Yeah, I was recently talking to a friend who is going to go on the Camino. We'll meet tonight. I think you don't need a near-death experience in order to have this cracking open. It can be a lot so grief, as I've learned and studied it, can be ambiguous grief, which is, as you know, a passion of mine. So it can be being diagnosed with a chronic illness. It can be losing a friend that you've had for a very long time. It could be that your family is deported. All of these different types of losses we don't acknowledge can also crack you open. I refer to them now as tower moments. So in the tarot, we have these tower moments,
Yep.
and they're life-defining opportunities of opening into greater consciousness, right? And so, so I was telling my friend who's going on the Camino very much in his tower moment about that art. And I was remembering being in Homer, Alaska, and seeing that for the first time and being so drawn to the beauty of the gold.
Yeah.
And yet that hadn't happened.
Oh, and your experience is like all these little things that are entering into our subconscious mind.
Totally.
Dang, I love it. I love that. I think it's important to acknowledge that the loss, because that's something that the book, The Wild Edge of Sorrow, Francis Weller, like somebody recommended that to me while I was it through starting my apprenticeship with sorrow, which I really love how he articulates that when people start going through their grief. It's the apprenticeship with sorrow. Like, I really like that. And how there's loss in so many different ways, It's like we typically think loss as in a person, that's like the big loss, but loss of identity, loss of what used to be, loss of the relationship, loss of a job, like
sense of purpose.
Sense of purpose.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I'd love to know what the importance or how you've seen like spirituality play a part in your own process with grief, and how important it is just through being a human being on this planet, on this earth school, how that connection to spirituality has really supported you. And
oh my God, beautiful questions. I love them all. Yeah, you just tapped into like me. I just want to like acknowledge that. Thank you. Oh. Yeah. It's everything. It's everything. I think it's I lost the plot there. I think our spirituality is what's waiting for us. If we lose it, like you were saying, the depression or the times when you're wayward or in your like lower level vibration, you're just like living and suffering on the day-to-day basis. Spirituality is right on the other side of that at any time, and it's accessible everywhere. And that's the part that I would think, getting outside of the confines of hospitals or outside of therapy rooms, to me, it's always been nature, looking for signs, looking for synchronicities. It doesn't take much. And people have been doing that for eons, way before churches, way before synagogues and all of organized religion. And so to me, that's a practice. We do that. We need to cultivate that. And we need to develop relationships that cultivate that. So I know you two have a beautiful relationship that cultivates that. And I love that about you two. And I want that for myself, any listeners out there.
It's happening. It's already done.
Calling it in. Single.
In case it wasn't clear.
Yeah.
You just got to talk to our friend who's like, she will give you a full-on pep talk, hype talk about how badass it is to be a single woman and how freeing it is and all that. So if you need a little bit of that, we can connect you.
I love that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be an intimacy either,
No.
right? Community
that
is huge.
That and meet you in that space is so important.
You can be authentic. And I mean, I think that's what drew us to each other, right?
Yeah.
It was just like, here we are. Let's just be real. And I think the more that you do the work, the spirituality connection and connecting to something higher, you do find these connections. You do find your people, which I know you guys are not strangers to.
That's the thing. I mean, I always think of whatever the saying, and I probably mentioned this already, but your vibe attracts your tribe, you know? It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, like once you're on the path, you just start collecting more and more people that are walking the path with you, and your paths all do this little dancey thing together, and you get to, yeah, just form a whole community of quirky, weirdo humans that are just on a different page, and we're all on that weird page together. So,
Yeah, some of us
yeah.
are a little further along, which it's important to have those mentors and,
Yeah.
cronies and all those folks. And I think that's where our society falls short. We don't look to the elders. And I think my time in Alaska really emphasized that, like, oh, these kids need their elders now. They don't need some white girl. They need the elders to hold space. And they know how to do this part, but they needed that container. And I think there's a part of me that's always been drawn to elders. I've collected grandfather figures my whole life. Yeah. And I we don't value them.
Yeah.
We put them away. So any space that's like holding both ends
Yeah.
is really important.
Yeah, I think that's been a deep yearning that's come out of my grief spaces. It's this feeling of like, where are the elders?
Yes. Yes.
So where's the wisdom? There feels like a disconnect. Like we're trying to figure it out on our own, or I've felt like I'm trying to figure it out on my own.
Or that we
carry it
have
all on
to
my
figure it
shoulder.
out on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like that there's no other choice but to carry the full weight of everything on my
Yeah.
own shoulders.
We're not
and
meant to.
We're not, right?
No.
And
Do you
just-
feel that extra pressure being a male? Maybe you can't understand the difference with
Yeah, I
being
would
figured
say
male.
no. I mean, we talked about it on the last podcast, just
Yeah.
what it's like being a man walking through this world and not having good male role models, and like the disconnection from tribe, like
Yes.
how the indigenous tribes operated and the elders, and how there was always like somebody more experienced you could go to and in proximity. And in my time being in Costa Rica, for example, like I got to interface with some tribes locally and also some Colombian tribes who came to do ceremonies there. And I just remember being in some ceremonies, like weeping, like, wow, what a blessing it is for these cultures to have these grandfathers to go and sit with when they're struggling and when they're seeking guidance and they don't know where to go. They can go sit with them
And be witnessed.
and be witnessed, and to
Gorgeous.
just talk it out and be guided and feel held in that with somebody who's got so much more experience. And yes, I still have a grandmother alive, and she's declining in her mental state, but
Mhm.
like beyond just the relative grandparents, like having the community
Yeah.
of grandparents and of elders that we can go to is definitely a missing. So I resonate with that deeply, especially
Yeah.
during crisis.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And you have to build it. I mean, you build it whenever, but ideally you would build it as you are coming on this journey, and finding people that do the work as their full life experience, I think is very helpful, because then they can say, oh, you're needing this. I see you and you need this. And so I have benefited from that more recently. But when I was younger, I always was seeking my mentor, my where is my guru? Where is my, and not that like I was trying to fully subscribe to something, but I just wanted that mentorship. And I think this can be a difference between men and women. At times, I think men do tend to mentor men a little bit better. There's a model, whereas women, we often are left to just flail. Like I never had much direction. I was like prompted up enough, but no one ever was like, I see you. Let me, I see your talent. I see your gift. Come with me. I very much alone in having to figure that out. And I don't think we need to let our youth suffer that much.
Yeah.
And that's where the spiritual component can be like, and I love doing that for people. I love doing that. Like I was just at Brighton Bush, this beautiful soaking place here in Central. Well, I guess it's Central. It's kind of the valley in Oregon.
Somewhere
Somewhere in the middle.
magical.
Yeah, around the
In the
pass.
forest.
In the
Oregon.
forest. Yeah.
with sacred waters. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Highly recommend. #Brightonbush. And there were these young college students that were there on their spring break, and we're all soaking, and this group of men were sitting there, and they were like asking us questions. It was like this really organic conversation, and they were musicians. And one of them said, "Yeah, but this guy dropped out because he had to go study mushrooms and biology." And I looked at him like, "You have a brilliant brain. Like, that is your gift, man. Like, take care of that." And I don't know. I just think we need people to do that and look and see us and just
encourage.
Yeah.
That light.
It helped that I was naked.
For him?
For
Or for
him. Well, no, for him.
He's like, I'm listening.
Yeah, he's like, "You got my full attention. Cougar."
That's not the intimacy I'm craving, but
No. There was nothing weird. Nothing happened between the two of us.
Nice. Yeah, it's an important conversation, and you have kids, so
Yeah.
it's like it's
Mhm.
probably a whole different thing being a mama thinking about all these things. And
Yeah, you get to do it on a daily basis if you choose to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or put people in place to do that. That's one of my favorite things. I call them my mommy extenders.
Mm.
Oh, like you guys, I want you to meet my kids because you bring value
Totally.
to them, and they've grown up with that. So they know, oh, mom, trust these guys. I want them to come cook for me. And so they get excited, and then they'll tap into you, and you'll just be, so I love
They're
that.
little teachers along the way.
Yeah, because you
I mean,
can't do
yeah.
it alone. You're building
No.
your tribe.
Totally. And as a woman, you're in mom mode. You're doing all the things. You're trying
You're
to.
in your masculine, and that you don't want to be in.
Yeah,
Right?
you're helping. I mean, look at you. The role that you do is
I
such a
know.
motherly role,
Right.
and then you go home and are a mother too. So it's like being able to give yourself that time to be able to replenish and nourish yourself. And so having the community members, like that's what we always talk about. Like our homie Josh, we call him the fun uncle, the funkle. He will be the honorary one. Be like, go and have fun with your Uncle Joshy whenever that time comes, because he's.
Yep.
Like
You're already
everyone
planning.
You're already planning it.
Well, me too. I love holding babies.
Just creating our
You guys are gonna make cute
community.
babies.
Aw.
Someday.
They might be
They
little
might have big
aliens.
hands and big ears.
Yeah. I think babies
In Canadian
all work.
accents.
And
In
Canadian accent.
I wrote in his birthday card. He just had his birthday.
Happy
I
belated
his
Thank
little,
you.
little mini cards I wrote him too. Anyway, I love writing cards, and that was another thing that you did. That you wrote us a card, and I was like, yes. That's how I love to show my love. But I mentioned our babies, and I was just like, I hope they get their good looks from Papa over here.
Aw. It's going to be a perfect combo.
What do you got?
I know.
My weird little creature. I mean, you call me a creature. You're very creature-ish this
mean-
morning, especially the way that I saw you. And then he wears his like nighttime. We call it his worm.
It's like my blindfold for sleeping.
But the other night we slept in the van and it was snowing out here. It was
chilly
like the
last
coldest night. And he had his toque, which is aka a beanie. Or a toboggan, apparently, according to Josh. Right? He calls them
Toboggan.
toboggans, which
That's like
It's a sled.
it is
I
a
know.
sled.
A
But
sled.
he's from Tennessee, and apparently they call them
They call 'em
toboggans.
that there.
I don't know.
Don't trust
That's a
Tennessee.
sled, bro.
But he had his little hat on. I took a photo of him because he totally looked like a little gnome. And it was so cute when he's
Cute.
sleeping. But that's what I wake up to, is him and his little worm covering his face, his eyes. I just see his little mouth and his...
So what does this have to do with our children and what they're going to look like? They come out looking like a gnome?
I don't
A
know.
gnome fairy.
I'm not really sure where I was
Gnome
going
fairy.
with that. But now everyone knows about the worm.
The worm.
life.
The worm.
Shout out to
We
the
need
worm.
to send photos. I want to
We
see
need-
photos of this.
Yeah, maybe we'll link out a photo for those.
Mhm.
We'll see if consent is there. Probably not.
I mean, I'm fine with it. It's just a blindfold while we're sleeping.
Yeah, it's cute, kind of.
If enough people comment on this episode, if we get 100 comments, we'll drop a
Whoa.
photo on
Drop a
social.
photo.
Okay, there you
All
go.
right.
You heard it
Yeah,
here.
people are like, I don't really need to
Need
see
to see that?
but
I'll drop 100 comments not to see that.
Just for entertainment purposes.
Could go either way.
only.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, bringing it back to the family and the
Mm,
children.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a big conversation of ours, and thinking about bringing kids into this world and wanting to have some structures in place and the
Mhm.
people that we trust and want to
Surround
raise a
our
family.
kids with, yeah.
Yeah.
People that they can get a well-rounded like upbringing, It's like then the pressure is not just on the nuclear family, right? It's like
Right.
two parents have to instill these kids with all this wisdom for life. Like it's a disservice to these children. Like
Yeah,
if
it
they can be
is.
surrounded by all these people that we trust and that share the same values in the community, and they can learn from everybody, like they grow up so much more well-rounded and confident and equipped to take on this wild journey out there on their own. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think like because kids like your partner at first, brings out your shadow side so much, and it's like a lot to work through if you find your partner and you can work through that together. And then kids just come in and they just needle. They
at
needle
that.
at your weak points or the sources of pain that you may not have known are there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's beautiful. But if you haven't worked through your stuff and then you have these kids that are challenging, you're just repeating the cycle,
Yeah.
right? You're just in that cycle again that your parents didn't have the tools to manage. They didn't teach you. And so
Yeah.
I think being conscientious about doing the work and having a spiritual community to check you, but also to help you grow is so important as if you choose to become parents or partners or just citizens, good people.
Yeah. Humans of this land.
Humans of this
Yeah,
land.
visitors, I guess we could say we all are.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing I think about this path is that everyone we've met, or we tend to attract people who are really intentionally doing that work because they don't want to perpetuate these cycles. They have the awareness and have seen what they've inherited from their parents and their lineage. And it's like, okay, the buck stops with me on these things that are not serving us. So how do we transform these so that our kids have even more love, even more presence, even more, even less trauma and like reactivity in the home.
Definitely. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, we tend to autocorrect or, kind of swing too far. And I think that we can see that in the generation of enabling. I see so many parents that come in to therapy because they think that their kid's the problem, but they're the one enabling. So it's a hard conversation to have. It's like, you need to back off.
Yeah.
So, like, where is that balance? And I think having community to check you is a great way to do that. But yeah, we're struggling. Our culture's really struggling with how to parent consciously and how to not swing too far. I mean, it's just nature to do that,
Right.
because we have a lot of emotionally stunted adults out there.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I know I need something, but there's a lot that needs to be put in place, like foundationally, before you jump to I don't know, the apex of trying to parent,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is what the book said. It's like, well, what does your intuition say?
Right.
So I teach like prenatal, postnatal yoga, and it's like these mamas come in and they're like, this is the latest trend. This is the latest thing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you could, or you could just listen to what your baby's telling you, and it's like, it's an important space to hold. And I call myself Auntie Natalie there, and I'm just like, can I try holding your baby that's upset? And they're like, yeah, please. And, I'm regulated and I'm not stressed. And so I can hold them. And I've developed this ability to feel something in the body of the baby, which is kind of an interesting new gift I've learned. And I'm not a PT, I'm not a chiropractor, but I'm like, oh, that left hip is clicking. And they're like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, the PT's been doing something around that. And I'm like, yeah, can you feel that? And they're like, yes. So attunement is so lacking in our culture. Even, it starts obviously mother baby, and father baby too. But if we don't do that because we're in our heads listening to what the experts say, what ChatGPT says or whatever, we have lost our compass. Yeah.
I know. We're like in a world with so much freaking information and
Overload.
like, you go on social media and it's like everyone's saying totally different things. So you're like, well, what am I supposed to believe? But I think that is an important thing of coming back to yourself first and foremost, because we are intelligently designed. And so many of us walk like being disempowered and just trusting the experts, and all this time they're there's these alerts going off and off and off and off, and they're just ignoring until some big explosive thing happens that is like, okay, we can't ignore this now,
Yes.
and it doesn't need to happen that way.
Right. And that goes back to like maybe a near death experience or like the tower moment. Like, can you catch this earlier? Can you hear those earlier warning signs if you're listening to your body, if you're embodied in general?
Right.
If you're out in nature more, you can catch those things a lot sooner. So, yeah.
Tuning in because she talking.
But
He
you
talking.
need the spaciousness. You got to be intentionally creating that spaciousness because so many people are just like this thing to the next thing, to the kids, to the soccer practice, to the put them to bed, to the I got to prep their lunches. The next thing, the next thing.
It's too much.
Yeah.
That and the emails and all the
Oh,
things
yeah.
like our brains are
What to
so
do.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Oy.
So what would you say for someone that's like, that's me? I'm so overwhelmed and I want this connection, this spiritual, desire, or just how do I even start that? What do I give to myself? Like, what's a good starting point?
Well, I think my go-to is just get outside in nature. I love putting my feet in the water or just don't take your phone or take a journal. Go sit, lean up against a tree, feel what it's like to have your feet in the grass. Just start there and let yourself get bored. Let yourself feel uncomfortable. Don't bring a jacket. Like feel the elements a little bit. We're so used to feeling comfortable all the time, right?
Mhm.
So you're freezing, but you're fine. You've got your beanie, you're fine. And you test yourself a little bit. But yeah, that's how you get a little bit more connected, both to earth and to then open up. But we can't hear anything if we are listening to white noise all the time, right? So we got to
Right.
learn to meditate. We got to learn to be quiet and find some sort of stillness practice, whether that's Tai Chi or meditation or whatever works. But you don't need to pay a lot of money to do it. It's just simple, and it can be 5 minutes and build from there. But yeah, those are ancient practices that people have always done prior to technology. So why would we not do those now?
Because we are the technology.
We are the technology. I love that. That's unity.
What? Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we
We're
are the
the
technology.
technology.
Interesting. Maybe you picked it up there.
Maybe.
I mean, if it's all unity,
Did you
I
just
picked
come
it
up with that?
somewhere. No, I've heard that
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
I know. I think
that we are. I think actually, who did? Maybe Dr. Zach Bush. Maybe he used that kind of language too. Shout out Dr. Zach Bush. He's amazing. Do you know about him?
I don't think so.
He's like the way he speaks is like so poetic, but he's also a bridge from the Western medical world into the more. He's done a lot of work with the soil health and glyphosate and had a clinic, and he, is really now moving through his own transformation and spiritual journey and like is bridging all of it together in just such an eloquent way. And so if you ever get the chance, like check out. He's a big educator. He's on a lot of podcasts and talks, but like very connected to nature and the way.
The way he speaks, the reverence he brings, like he just like constantly through his own expression, like brings himself to tears with the beauty that he witnesses constantly. And he sees the reflection of nature in our bodies and our microbiome and just how we need to listen more and go back to paying attention to nature because a lot of the answers are there for us.
Yeah.
I know that you're in a personal transformation right now
Would you call it a tower moment?
And maybe if you want to speak to that in any way of what you've been going through recently and what has been coming up and any personal insights and wisdom you want to share and choosing yourself. And
Oh, thank you.
I know that that's not an easy
Yeah.
process to go through, and a lot of people probably never do, and they don't listen. And
Yeah.
that's the sign that keeps coming up and keeps coming up, and you listen to the call and you're taking aligned action, and it's
thank
really
you.
beautiful. So
Gosh.
if you want to just share.
Yeah, I think the gift that came to me in my 20s with being diagnosed with Crohn's was I had to listen to my body. And I was one of those people who pushed my body way too much, too hard, too fast for being a competitive figure skater, just identified as an athlete, also, perfectionist. And when I couldn't perform, I was like, who am I?
Yeah.
So I think that was one of my first tower moments. And that's a tough thing to go through as a 21-year-old,
Definitely.
and very isolating, and grateful for what I found in my journey. But a couple years ago, I was in Joshua Tree for the first time, and I was having a hard time. I had gotten into an administrative role and kind of removed from my helping profession, but yet the pay was good. There's lots of good benefits, lots of yada yada. But there were some ethical things that were happening in the place I was working that really did not sit well with me, that impacted how students were treated. Like, there's a lot of trauma and a lot of mistreatment from the institution to the students. And as I was like the head of the student wellness department, so it was like I had to advocate, but yet I wasn't getting the support from my own leadership team.
Right.
So I was pretty stressed, and went on this retreat with some of my dearest friends from college. And we were in Joshua Tree. First time I had been. We had been out in the park and done a sound bath, and it was very profound for me because I was calling in clarity and health. And we were out in the hot tub. We could hear the coyotes, and the stars were just magnificent. And I started just opening up. It was like another cracking, right? And I was like primed for this experience, and I was laying, they were holding me. It was the most beautiful thing. It was like they were holding my body as I was laying in the water, and they were like just kind of like holding space for me in this like buoyant place. It was cool, and I was crying, but they were also kind of freaked out.
They were?
Yeah, they're
From
like,
what? The
well, they're like, is she
coyotes,
having a
or-
mental
Oh,
breakdown? Like, what's happening? Because there was a
What
lot
I
of
do with my hands.
emoting. I was like, and so some were like supportive grandma figures, and the others were like, what the fuck do we do with her?
How do we get her to stop crying?
How do we get her to go home? And what I did was I went into my room and I called my therapist and thanked her for all the work I've done with her. And I called my husband and I said, it's time for me to leave. I've done, and leave my job. And so I left. My job at the time was priority because I needed bandwidth. And there was just too much. And I was like, what just happened in this like bizarre experience, right? So I focused on that, and that took a while. And then I focused on my relationship with my husband of 20 years, and we worked and we tried again. And it just was clear that like I was looking for something more and something else. And so just continued to work, like therapy, EMDR, yoga, like all of the things that I had already done and been doing, but just focused on how do I get myself to a place that I know I'm strong enough to make this decision that feels good and aligned from that decision that came through in Joshua Tree. So that's what led me back to Joshua Tree, where I met you guys. And I had already made the decision, but I was like, how do I move through this experience? And so that intentional time back out in the desert, hearing the coyotes and the stars, just like brought it all home. And that place is really special, very special in general to me, but just hence I have a tattoo of a, that was from the first time.
Was it? Oh,
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's where what I'm going through. And then now I think going back to Naropa's part of it, focusing on my spirituality, making that my daily practice, again, reminding myself, like, I was a little monk in my 20s, and then I had kids, and then I had no time to be a little monk, but maybe that's who I am, right? Like, I remember at one point when I didn't know where I was going to land, I thought, well, maybe I am supposed to be a nun, maybe I am supposed to do this. And so that's always been in the background, and I'm now open to whatever it is that my purpose is going to change into, evolve. And so it's a lot of shedding, a lot of just like clearing space to get more aligned. And it's not easy, not for the faint of heart.
But can you imagine what it'd be like if you hadn't chosen that for yourself?
Yeah, because I was that version, But it's the sliding doors moments of your lives where you're like, yeah, I could easily still be married and doing the things. I know lots of people doing that, and that no like judgment, but I know that there's something else I'm supposed to do. I just don't have the whole map yet.
Right. And that's going to be determined. That's going to unfold as you continue to walk. What is the quote? Walk and the bridge appears.
I love how you can just pull out quotes, lady.
I love them.
Yeah, and I'm also realizing, like, right now, no map, no problem.
Yeah, no mom, no problem.
Another T-shirt.
There you go.
But like that like living, just slowing down time, because time is moving really fast, right? So it's like, okay, just living in this moment, like being here with you guys, like this feels like it's been 7 hours.
I know. That's why I was like,
Time,
wait, how
like,
long
time
has it
flies.
been?
It does.
When you're
Crazy.
present, like when you're really just locked in,
Yes.
connected. Yeah.
Yes.
I noticed
Which
that.
is a
connected
reminder.
to each other and connected to
Yeah.
the. It is. Yes.
And I was like, I swear it's been like 2 hours. Like, but
No.
that's great. I love it. We're creating time.
yes,
Yep.
we're taking it, owning it. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, and it's
Maybe
gonna continue
maybe
to
until
write
like
itself.
tomorrow when I
What?
read
Yeah,
it or hear it. I'm like,
right.
Oh God.
What did I
Emotional
say?
hangover. What do they call it? Vulnerability hangover.
Yep, I feel that. I've been crying. I love crying.
Now you
And
love crying,
I
right?
used to. Yeah, I always talk about this. I think I talk about crying too much. But
Not more than you cry.
not more than I cry. And
Aw.
that is the truth right there.
do you cry, Matt?
Yeah, I cry.
I
mean,
love that.
definitely have
Yeah.
my moments for sure.
I love seeing when he cries.
I get excited when I cry.
That's cute.
That sometimes ruins it for myself.
Because that's conflicting emotions.
Totally. I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling it. I'm crying. I'm so stoked. I'm feeling, because I know it's so cathartic and such a good release, and how good and spacious I'm going to feel after. And then sometimes that takes me out of it, and I'm like, shit, should just got to stay with the emotion, stay in the moment with it. Yeah. Yeah. We've definitely had some powerful moments with me crying and Brooke holding space for me. And for me, like, it usually comes out of this like tension in my solar plexus that builds up over time. And then it's like frustration and turmoil, and then this like constriction. And then, yeah, somehow it ends up coming out. And I'm probably due for one, to be honest with you.
So it kind of builds. And it's like,
Do you
Yeah.
for a cry?
I'm due for a cry, I think. Yeah.
should we talk about like sad things and see if we can
And
get
see what
Matt to
happens.
cry?
I mean, similar to
I
what
mean,
Brooke.
people cry in this space quite a bit.
Oh,
I
yeah.
see tears
sure.
all day long.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just like an intuition. Like
Yeah.
nothing specifically at top of mind, but every once in a while it just feels like, yeah, there's just so much frustration with the state of the world right now that I think I carry.
Make you
You
carry
know.
it in your solar plexus.
Yeah, I carry
It's
it.
the
and-
fire. I mean, that's the Agni, right?
Yes,
And
yes, and
in the
purpose.
belly.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just spoke about the men's work on our last podcast,
Mhm.
but how men haven't typically had, like the safe space to release their anger in a healthy way.
Right.
So it's like held in, or else it can be scary.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that
You know?
tension, holding
Yeah.
in that tension.
Yeah.
In the body.
And how that, I also have heard somebody articulate that it's like easier to transmute the sadness and the grief into anger, because that's like almost like more acceptable for men to feel anger than it is to like feel sadness or to cry. But yeah, but mine always comes out. It like maybe transmutes into anger, and then it comes out as tears for me. It's just like, yeah, again, it's the grief of disconnection. Like, man, when I'm carrying this and I'm stuffing all these emotions down, I am disconnected. I'm not expansive. I'm not free. I'm not an open channel to source. And it's this deep yearning for presence as well, because I'm like in some fog, some haze of, being in my head or whatnot, and how deeply I'm craving more presence and presence from those around me, because when we're all present and connected, it's just like this flow of energy and love. And it's
Yes.
just so
It's a
magical.
giving and a taking. It's
Yeah.
reciprocated and it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are the beautiful moments. Like, those are my favorite moments. And the more I walk this path, the more I realize how simple it is, and the things that are important to me. It's the
You guys
people.
are really prioritizing that, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, that's a great example of how you're creating your life to do this, to be intentional, to have more moments like that. I think that's really admirable.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We're doing our best.
Yeah. I mean,
Knocking it out of the park.
this podcasting platform, I mean, this is our 7th
Episode.
episode,
Yeah.
and, yeah, it's a cool way to do that and to be able to hear stories and give other people the space,
Yeah.
to be able to share that maybe they haven't shared before. Like, we know these people, or not even, like, some people we do know really well, but they haven't maybe had the platform
Yeah.
to be vulnerable and to share and to, like, help for that to be
Helpful to
a
their
way,
process.
to help them through their own process, or
Mhm.
maybe, you're like, "Oh, you haven't been asked that question before," like, just provoking them and helping them to get in touch or find more clarity maybe, or more resolve or closure or whatever it is that they need through being able to tell their own story.
Yeah, storytelling is so important to be witnessed and to share it. It changes the story,
Yep.
in healthy ways most of the time. So it
Yeah.
pulls you out of your victim story.
Uh-huh.
So
Rewriting it
you're rewriting
as
it.
though you're the hero.
Yeah, that's narrative therapy. That's
Mhm.
really important work
Mhm.
we need to do.
Yeah.
And we've lost that. So, I mean, that's
Mhm.
great
Yeah,
that you're
like
bringing that storytelling. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just wanted to come back to, can you tell everyone what
EMDR.
EMDR
Yeah.
is? Because I think I know, but I'm not sure if I know fully.
Yeah, it's a trauma-informed practice that's become quite popular in therapy spaces for people that have experienced like reoccurring symptoms of trauma. And it's an acronym: I movement desensitization. Wait, I movement rapid desensitization. So basically, it's bilateral stimulation through the brain. And so therapists may do this differently, but essentially, you're moving story from the right brain, left brain as you're processing it in real time. And so, a lot of times, emotions get stored in the brain and then can get stuck, right? So this is a way that it crosses over the middle line of the brain, oh my God, in terms, the center cortex or whatever, I can't think. And so by processing it, it has less stickiness to it. And so that's become a very accessible form of therapy that people are using. And it originally was like, oh, if you went through some like one big T trauma, that
Right.
you would use EMDR to process that one event. We're using it now in lots of different ways, and they're even tying in different modalities like IFS, internal family systems, with it. People are getting really creative, and it's neat to see how that is effective.
Mhm.
Cool.
And yeah,
Yeah, so many things. Like, I was just talking to someone about the IFS stuff, and we got to witness some amazing magic happen at this gathering, which is a great gathering, which we talked about in the last podcast too. Shout out to Remembrance, but it's a space where we can do a lot of deep healing work together in community, because that's the core foundation of it. It's like we heal together. Like, healing happens in community. So we got to witness people going through whole family constellations
Oh,
and
cool.
IFS, like,
Yeah.
being played out, and we're just like eating it up. Like,
Yeah.
it's so good because we all get to take something from it. They're going through their process, but we're like,
We're all human, so we've all had their
we're all
experience.
relating, and it's really beautiful and powerful. And I hadn't ever witnessed anything like that before until last year, and I was like, wow, like, this is amazing that these spaces exist for people to be moving through like years of relationship stuff that was
There's
like
one guy
heavy.
was jammed up for like 10 years after losing a child to a miscarriage, and he'd been
That's
closed
not
off,
uncommon. Yeah.
for 10
For
years.
men, they don't get the
Yeah.
space to grieve.
And to see transformation happen instantly like that, like he was instantly freed up from this process,
Beautiful.
and he
So with
chose.
family constellation with
Yeah,
IFS. Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful.
I think
It was
there
kind
was
of like a
melding of modalities. The practitioner was brilliant. Like,
very much in his divine masculine energy. It was really sweet, but holding both polarities really, really well.
That's cool.
So it was like,
check
I'm
that
like,
out.
wow, this exists. Like, this is amazing, to be able to see examples of what's possible for us as humans. And
Sounds like it had a lasting impact on you.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know they do family constellations here. Yeah.
oh,
Mhm.
cool. Yeah, it'd be
Yeah, I've
cool
been
to
training a
experience
little
more
of
of that.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. It's all the neat. It's neat, and I love that this stuff is becoming widely utilized.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to happen again in the office confines, but it's powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, you guys. I feel
Yeah.
like that's a good place to end.
What?
Do I get to
Well,
say that?
we gotta ask
Okay.
you one final question. Matt, take it away.
What does a thriving life look like to you?
Thriving life is when you are able to live from abundance, not scarcity. You're able to, I think, take care of your basic needs, but also your family, your community from a place of abundance. I'll leave it at that.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And if anybody listening is like really inspired to connect with you, are there ways that people can reach out and connect or work with you?
Yeah. I mean, I think to be continued. I'm thinking the direction I'm going to do my work, the ministry work and the chaplaincy work will be more local. I am wanting to expand my yoga to be more accessible to people. So I'm hoping to find ways to record and to people that are in remote places be able to move their bodies like prenatal, postnatal, and also just kind of divine flow. But I did a TED Talk a couple of years ago. It was about 6 years ago, right before the pandemic, about ambiguous loss. So it's called Embracing Ambiguity. You can look it up on YouTube. That's something that I talk a lot about my story, but also what is ambiguous loss and how can you kind of work through that in a lot of the themes that we talked about today. Other than that, I'd say that's really about it. You can find me on Instagram. I don't even know my thing. Natalie Bowker 77, I think.
She's living to you presently, okay, everyone? No time for that.
Website coming.
Sweet. Well, we got your link. We'll put it in the show notes for them to watch the TED Talk. I watched it. Really great. Highly recommend. So, yeah, I think that wraps it up. Thank
Go
you
listen
so
to
much.
some music.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what we're going to do next. I know. And if you are in Bend, say what up.
Say what up.
Even though when this post,
What up?
we'll be here.
We'll be back.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Love it.
All right.
I
Well,
love that
thanks,
you guys are
Natalie.
going to be back here. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Natalie. Love you.
All right, everybody out there. See you in the next one. Peace.